So, as promised, here is a side-to-side comparison of the SBDC029 Shogun with its sibling, the SBDC057 Zimbe limited edition Shogun. You've seen my Shogun in another video. The SPB is a new arrival, just got it the other day, and I put up an unboxing video. So I guess the real question is, why get one of those, since it is around 50% more expensive in list price? To realize that answer to that question, you have to bear in mind that I already owned one of those, which is now up for sale, and I preferred keeping the Zimbe Shogun due to one reason mostly. The reason was that I considered the Shogun to be a near perfect watch in its stock configuration. Sorry. Save for one fact, the fact that the dial, when you look at it under direct sunlight, it turns black, pitch black. It is a black dial. But when you look at it indoors, it looks more of a grayish, dull tint. Also, the bezel insert, although it's a great watch to own, I wore this watch the most during the past 2 years that I've owned it, and that's no small feat. During the past 3 or 4 years, I've had more than 50 watches come and go. This one stayed, and it's only being sold because I got me one of those. But I have other black dial divers with a more attractive dial design, and that was really the only thing that, I kind of wish it was different. It wasn't enough of a nuisance to sell it, but once I took one good look at this dial, this little splash of color, you could say it's a Batman version of the Shogun. It looks, of course, very familiar if you've seen the latest James Cameron special edition that Rolex put out for the DSSD. But this aside, I think also Zin has a very similarly themed watch. But this aside, this new edition really took care the only single flaw I had with this watch. And since I have other black dial divers, other black dialed watches which are perfectly executed, in my opinion, once I took one good look at this one, with beautiful gradient dial, the nice little details, the gilt indexes. Some people don't like gold indexes, but I think these are made in very nice style. Just that little splash of gold that accentuates the blue even better. And you can see this blue is really special. It's not, what kind of blue could you compare it to? It's not blue reminiscent of any other Seiko watch, because it's a very warm blue as it goes down to black. A very unique watch. I used to, take a look at the Shogun on my wrist, and I was captivated by the beauty of the case, the elegance of the design overall, but the dial, was kind of meh. And now I'm taking a look at this one on my wrist, and the whole package is there. And I really enjoy a watch that has a detailed dial. You know, people tend to look at the overall design, the case styling, etc. But I'm a sucker for nice dials. That's a fact, I've noticed this. So the moment I saw this one, I knew that it would be just the perfect watch for me. And as I'm contemplating reducing the collection, I've had more than 20 watches last year, I'm down to 7 or 8 now, and I could conceivably, you know, lower down to 3 or 4 with this one on board, because it's just, to me, a near perfect design. Now the rest of the watch is identical. I've just did a small mod already. I replaced the stock, you know, the stock clasp, the stock diving clasp that the regular Shogun usually has. This one also had the same clasp, so this is a clasp I retrofitted to it from titanium tuna. I believe this was the initial design. Other than that, it's the same watch. The case pack is a little bit different. This is stock Shogun. You see the lovely Seiko Tsunami logo. This one also has the Seiko Tsunami logo, but you can see the Zimbe shark nicely etched here. Also the number of the limited edition. Didn't really matter to me that the watch was a limited edition or not. I would have still bought it. It's a nice perk to have a limited edition in case you're wondering about, you know, future resale value and don't intend to sell this one. Well, then again, you know, Seiko might surprise us all and come up with yet another iteration that could be interesting to own. Although I really dig this dial, I doubt that anything will make me sell this one in favor of a different Shogun, because the blue is just, you know, to my eyes anyway, perfect. You know, there's no perfect watch. Objectively, it's just what you like subjectively to look down to whenever you check your wrist. And I really, really, really like this watch. Now, is it good value? You could say no, it isn't. Other than the fact that it's a limited edition, there's really very little to differentiate these two, one from another. Basically, it's just a different dial, a different set of hands, and a different bezel inset. Plus, of course, I almost forgot this one, the sapphire crystal, which is a really thick, flat sapphire crystal with the Cyclops. While, of course, the Shogun has a Hardlex, slightly concave crystal, the same that you see on the Sumo. Now the crystal protrudes quite a bit, which is a double-edged sword, I guess, because this way there's little friction to the bezel insert and the bezel if you bump it around, but there's a higher chance of course, scratching a crystal that protrudes from the bezel. This being sapphire, I expect it to last quite a little bit more to everyday wear than if it was a Hardlex crystal. Why did Seiko do this? I guess Seiko, are pretty hardcore with regarding to diving competence. I suspect that a flat sapphire crystal would have to be thicker in order to match the resistance to pressure compared to a slightly concave Hardlex crystal, and Seiko did just that. There were for some time, flat sapphire crystals on sale from other vendors. Suddenly there are no more. I was looking for one to retrofit to my regular Shogun, I couldn't find any. There were only the dawn crystals. Dawn crystal is, no, it's not to everybody's taste. The Cyclops, well, there are people who telling me already, ditch the Cyclops. It's not hard to remove the Cyclops and to glue it back together. Basically, a Cyclops is a little piece of glass that's glued on top of your crystal, so you can basically unglue it. But, truth be told, the Cyclops has a practical value for me because I have a hard time checking out the date in watches that don't have a Cyclops. Yeah, no old dates and all this, what can you do? So I really dig the Cyclops, but in watches with a larger dial, such as the Shogun. I don't like the Cyclops in a small 36mm watch. It looks just too much. The dial, looks very, very small when you add the Cyclops. This one, I guess, rounds up the watch quite nicely. I already placed an order for a new black date wheel, and I think it will look better than the white date wheel. Although, it doesn't look too bad on this dial. I might just leave it stock for the moment and replace it with the first service. Now, there are widespread problems with the chapter ring alignment, and this one is also the same. The chapter ring is slightly misaligned, although this is more of a problem when you are photographing the watch. It's not something that you readily notice because the misalignment is mostly 6 o'clock. I guess I will have this realigned, but only after the first service in 4 or 5 years. I don't see the point of opening the watch, removing the movement and all this just to have the chapter ring realigned. You don't really notice it in real life. You know it's there, but if you are really OCD, it will bother you. No doubt about it. I'm somewhat OCD. And it doesn't really bother me. It would have bothered me more if it was on 12 o'clock and the bezel was misaligned. That would have been probably a harder fix. The crown is also Seiko sign. That's a nice sign. There is a X on both watches, and opinions vary about the Prospex logo. I don't really mind it. I guess I would have liked it more if they had the automatic sign as they do with the Sumo limited editions. But overall, I really like what the Thai people did to this limited edition. I think it really struck a nerve with me, and I think the principal market for the Zimbe is someone who's already owned the Shogun, or even is the current owner, and would have liked a little dash of color, because otherwise it's a very standard diver. You could have it as your only watch, but if your collection is somewhat larger, you'd probably look at the Zimbe with more interest. It will really shine in your collection. Now, the rest of the details, I have the boxes right here, the regular Prospex box for the regular edition, nothing special. There is, of course, the dreaded regular rubber strap. I don't wear this at all. On the other hand, we have the Zimbe limited edition box. It's a nicely executed watch. There's some nicely velvety texture in it, and a very nice rubber strap. The rubber strap is reminiscent to the material, at least, is reminiscent to the one you would see in a turtle. The inner surface is very nicely grooved. I really like what they've done here. And the material, you see, I haven't even unpacked it yet. It's also diasyl titanium. So I think finally someone has produced a rubber strap which is perfect for the quality of this watch. Objectively, I think at least that it's worth the money. People saying, well, you might look at the Zimbe because you think that the Shogun regular edition isn't good value because it doesn't have a sapphire crystal, etc., etc. But this doesn't really make sense because you can get one of those, mod it for like $50 including the crystal with a sapphire. Why would you pay $500 more for this one just to get a sapphire crystal, which on top of it also has a cyclops? You don't see a lot of younger people enjoying a cyclops on their crystals. I do. It's not a deal breaker for me, I like it, but you're not really going to spend 50% more money just to get, a sapphire crystal. Arguably, there are no mods for the Shogun. The watch has been treated with some, respect, I guess. No one has come up with any crazy stuff for this one. I guess it's a very expensive diver to mess around with. You have to dish out almost $1,000 to get a brand new Shogun. Why would you have to mod it? There are virtually no mods for the bezel insert. Of course you can fit, different hands to it. People have been crying foul over the hands, saying they're very much reminiscent of monster hands. And the new one, similarly styled. They're just gold trimmed. You can do this, sure, but I haven't seen any, spectacular modding, other perhaps than a small, date wheel change, the old sapphire crystal, different ratcheting clasp, and so on. So is it too expensive? I don't know. I mean, you're seeing in the used market, orange Shoguns. I checked out one sold in Japan the other day for like $2,500. That was insane. That was insane, and I'm sure that the collector will pay this kind of money for an orange Shogun again. So is this poor value long term? I'd say no. I got this at list price and I can already sell it for more. I think the price will, stay around $2,000 stable, but I didn't really get it with selling option. And that's mostly because I think the price will remain stable because there are just too few of those. There are only 456 pieces. This is number 228. And this is a much more limited edition than Seiko has been doing lately. You've seen the new SLA017 being produced in 2,000 pieces. That was highly sought after. But really 450 pieces are not enough. Keep in mind that there are a lot of Seiko collectors out there. They will get one of those and keep them in their boxes, practically just put them in a vault, and that leaves too few pieces out for a casual collector like myself. So I was among the first who, put down some hard cash for the pre-order, and I think it was a good choice. But again, I'm not looking at this as an investment. If I did, I'd probably sell it right now. This one for keeps. This one is already up for sale locally. And that was probably the only reason I'd ever let this one go. I was really thinking that I would keep this one, but the dial, I wasn't really 100% okay with it. I have other black dial divers, and it created some problems, manner of speaking, to my collection. Well, this one just fits in perfectly. with what I have in mind in reducing the numbers to, 5 or 6 watches, maybe even 3. I can do this with this one. This one, kind of produced some problems, and I think people who own Shoguns or have owned in the past will know what I'm talking about. It's too perfect of a watch to let it go, but there are some flaws that bug you when you own it. So, I think I've covered all the bases. Feel free to ask me for any questions. I don't see what else might have to comment. This is a beautiful watch, make no mistake about it. I don't think you'll be seeing a lot of those coming up for sale. I'll just pause a little bit for a wrist shot. Right, this is the watch on my wrist. My wrist is 18.5 centimeters across, quite flat, so despite the watch being large, make no mistake, it is a large watch. It's pretty comfortable on my wrist. Comfort, is what the Shogun really is all about. It's a watch that's light enough, you can wear it all day long, all night long, and not regret it. It really curves around your wrist very nicely. Now, I would have liked if the sapphire crystal had a double layer of anti-reflective coating. I could have executed it a little bit better, but that's good enough. The bracelet, well, a lot of people complain about the bracelet, and it's rightly so, not because it's a bad bracelet necessarily, it's just not up to par with the rest of the package. And now that the package in the Zimbe Shogun includes a nicely done sapphire crystal, very nice dial, bracelet lags behind, I'd say. But it's not bad. It could have been better. The rubber, of course, now it's perfect. So yeah, I'd like that someone could come up with a better bracelet, but it won't happen because it's a titanium bracelet. Maybe, just maybe, there is a compatible bracelet, Seiko bracelet out there for Bright's watch. Who knows? But as it is right now, I think it's a fabulous, fabulous watch. Right, so that was all. Thanks for watching. We'll be in touch.